Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today is my full review and discussion of the Benchmade Grizly Ridge. This is for sure the most interesting Benchmade to me this year. And I was really excited to be able to pick it up because there's a lot of things that I think this knife does right. One thing that I wish was that it would be just a little bit bigger, but this is 7 3/4 inches, so it's not a small knife by any means. It's just a little small for me personally. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and look at that size and weight. So 7 3/4 inches overall. You already know that. 3.5 inch on the blade. It's actually just a little less than 3.5 inches. 4 3/8 handle. So that's the closed size in pocket, 4 3/8. And a very comfortable 3.77 ounces. So under 4 ounces, it's going to carry pretty comfortably. It's not super thin, right around 1/2 inch thick. So in terms of size, weight, and carry, really what we're thinking about here, this carries pretty nicely. And I've carried this a fair bit, and really you don't even, it's a very unobtrusive knife in your pocket. Now, many of you have asked about the Benchmade Boost and the Freak, and this has the same VersaFlex coating. Does it bind up in your pockets at all? And the answer is yes and no. One, it depends a little bit on what you're actually wearing. Are you wearing sort of really tight jeans or something like that? And then of course it's going to bind up a little bit more, but just about any knife would. And then in something like 511s or something like that, you're going to have no problems, or cargo pants, or even a looser fitting pair of jeans. So it's kind of relative. Yes, it can catch a little bit, but I've tried this in a bunch of different pants. I've carried it for testing a fair bit, and don't find that to be an issue, something that is actually so problematic that I have to say, hey, watch out for this. To me, it wasn't a problem at all. All right. What about the blade on this guy? Well, the blade here is something I really like. Number one, I love that it's almost 3.5 inches in a fairly small handle, so the blade to handle ratio is pretty darn good. It is a drop point with a bit of a recurve there, and I really like that bit of a recurve. If you like a really functional blade, now this is, designed to be a bit of a hunting knife, and that belly at the front does serve really well for skinning tasks, but honestly, recurves are great for just about any kind of slicing task. If you put, let's say you had some rope or paracord or a seat belt, you can kind of get it in that little indentation there, and it really pushes through material. Same is true even if you're just cutting up fruit or something like that. Okay, now when it comes to cutting cardboard or opening packages, literally any knife shape imaginable, even a key point will work for a lot of those package opening tasks. So, pretty much any knife's going to work fine for that. The extra utility comes with the nicer slicing ability that's associated with a slight recurve there. And so I do really like that. For those of you who have problems sharpening recurves, I'll put an Amazon link down in the bottom to the Lansky rod sharpener. It's like $15, $20, and it will sharpen recurves really well. And so, you kind of really, when you can get a piece of equipment that will do a pretty decent job for you at that low price point, there's not really too much to complain about. And I doubt many people are sharpening on flat stones anyway. So in terms of sharpening, I don't find it to be a problem. The blade grind here is nice and thin. You've got that Benchmade stonewash. It's sort of a satin stonewash combination that you've seen many times on lots of Benchmades. You can still see the grinder satin lines there, and then it's got like a stonewash over it. So we're pretty familiar with that. Benchmade logo on this side. I could definitely live without the first production run here. I like the way that they've got, just the little S30V up there. That's nice. It's understated. You start doing this and it's just a little too much bannering for me. So in terms of performance, I really like this blade. I like the steel. And so as far as that goes, I think this is a great cutting tool because of this blade. What about the action? Well, it's an axis lock, okay, with a thumb stud. It's nice and smooth, really works well. This is, let me put it this way. Sometimes we have had some frustrations with Benchmades. I've had them. I'm sure some of you watching have had them, where you buy a Benchmade and you're expecting this kind of action, just smooth and fast and clean, and you end up disappointed. I've had Benchmades like that. This is not one of them. This is pretty much what you expect from a good Benchmade. It's smooth, it's fast, it's easy to actuate. The only thing I will say about it is it's the axis lock, so we're pretty familiar, I think, with how that works. If you're not, then you can see that there's a lock bar back there that pops onto the back of the blade tang and holds the blade from closing. And then if you want it to close, you just pull that lock bar back out of the way and the blade can close. And so great lock. Really, really like it, especially if you're one of those guys who likes to fiddle with your knife. The only issue I would say with this one is the little studs here that allow you to work the axis lock are kind of short. Now, Ergonomics, that, I don't know, you wouldn't really touch them anyway. But yeah, they're just nestled a little deeper into the handle than I would like to see. It's not the end of the world. You can see I still, I have no problem actuating the knife, but it's just a little more effort than some Benchmades I've had before. So, that's a minor criticism on the action there. Otherwise, yeah, it's great. Phosphor bronze washers. I mean, everything typical of Benchmade that we expect to see from a knife company of this caliber. And that's as it should be, guys. Really, at this price point, the action should pretty well be perfect. And, that's one of the things I hope knife companies can understand. $120, $150 is not a budget knife. That's an expensive knife, and it should pretty well be perfect at that point. And this one is pretty darn good. So I can't complain too much about the action. In fact, I rather like it. How about, though, the handle? This is something I've got a little bit more to complain about, I think. We've got the polymer handle, whatever Benchmade's proprietary name is for their essentially it's a reinforced plastic and very strong material. Okay, I'm not taking anything away from that. And then over that, we have the VersaFlex coating. Now, the VersaFlex coating is really comfortable. It grips the hand really, really nicely, and it seems to hold up really well. I've had a few knives with this now, and I've talked to people who have knives with the VersaFlex coating. Everyone really likes it. It does present a theoretical problem, and that's always tough as a reviewer. I try to raise these theoretical problems, but I try to be very clear that I haven't actually seen it happen. And here's what I've got to say about this. Is it possible that the VersaFlex coating could wear more quickly than, say, just the hard polymer? Yeah, it's possible. Okay, but as far as I've seen, as far as anyone I've talked to has seen, it holds up pretty well. So that's what I've got to say about it. Now, in terms of does it make the knife more comfortable in hand, the answer is absolutely yes. And, what it does is it makes the blade not feel like a cheap toy. Okay, it actually feels substantial in hand. It feels more stable, and that's compared to the Griptilian. If you felt a Griptilian, to me they feel awful in hand. They feel hollow. They feel chintzy. I just, the handle really bothers me. They're very ergonomic. They're very well made. I'm not questioning that whatsoever. It's totally a subjective thing, but the VersaFlex definitely takes that feeling away. All right. So in terms of ergonomics on the VersaFlex, it's very good. By the way, since we're talking about ergonomics, let me say there's another spot of jimping up here so that you can do this kind of thing. And, if you're actually using this for its intended purpose to skin an animal, I'm not in love with a folding knife for that job anyway, so I wouldn't. To me, this is an EDC knife, and I think it works well for that. And there are if you're opening clamshell packages or something, this jimping would still be useful. I would normally do something like a pinch grip like that on the blade, but I do like that positioning of the jimping. I also like the jimping here, where we're on the sort of construction and ergonomics discussion, and the jimping is really nice. It's just sharp enough. And I love the fact that they didn't do the jimping back here that's buried below the liners. A number of Benchmades I've had have that jimping, and it's not very effective. So I'm glad to see that they didn't do it on this. I wish they would kind of move away from that in general, or if you're going to do it, just make it a little bit proud of the scales here. Now, the one thing I will say about this is, yes, the VersaFlex is comfortable. Yes, I like the way that they've done it with the two-tone coloring there. I would like to see it in a bunch of different colors. I think that would be awesome. The other thing, though, is I wish this was just G10. Okay, that's sort of the elephant in the room when you're looking at this knife is you know, it really should be G10. For some reason, I had a comment on a video, I think on the first impressions of this video, where someone said, Benchmade thinks G10 is made of solid gold and they charge accordingly. And that seems to be the case. It's so stupid because you can get G10 on a $15 Gonzo knife, but Benchmade can't put it on a knife for less than $200, which is insane. So my biggest complaint about the handle construction is that it's not just G10. It seems so obvious. The other thing that I'm not a huge fan of is, number one, this is a fairly small lanyard hole. Number two, I don't love the way that it's done. It's sort of like, the whole knife has this sort of gray and orange styling, and then all of a sudden you got a piece missing here that's just stainless steel, and it kind of stands out like a sore thumb. Clip is workable. It's a split arrow clip. If you don't like the split arrow clip, that's not really something to worry about, because Benchmade will send you whichever one you want. If you want the satin finish deep carry clip, great. You know, Benchmade's really good about sending those clips out, so no issue there. They are functional, okay? And it is two-way positionable, left or right side, tip up carry, making this knife very ambidextrous. And that's of course true of all the Axis Lock knives. They're going to be very lefty friendly. Okay, so that's about all. Oh yeah, and I do like the fact that they went with standoffs here, making the knife easy to clean, and that it's full stainless steel liners. The Boost versus the Freak, that was one of the points I made in that discussion, that the Boost having full stainless steel liners was a nice addition. The Freak without them is still a great knife, but it would have been nice to just get that little extra strength from the stainless steel, or again, to have the whole thing made in G10. All right, so let's get to some comparisons, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts. And I've got a fair number of comparisons because this knife really lands in a spot where there's a lot of competition, including some pretty stiff competition like the Paramilitary 2, which is another great knife, a little more handle real estate, probably slightly better ergonomics, although less cutting edge. If I had to, you know, pick which blade here I prefer, I would definitely go with the Benchmade. If I had to pick which handle I prefer, I would probably lean toward the Para. It does have the G10 that I was talking about. Another offering has got to be the American Lawman, similar in size, just a little bigger, which I do prefer. Again, G10 and great steel. This would also be a really, really suitable outdoors use knife. And, you know, because of the extra strength and the hollow grind, maybe even a little more well suited to that role. So there is the American Lawman. Great, great knife. Absolute near perfection. Cold Steel Ultimate Hunter. Let's see here. So there's another, again, outdoor use knife, heavy duty knife, really reliable, really well made. In this case, it's 3D Machine G10. And here's where we can talk about value a little bit. The Para 2 with Spyderco's price increase is a little more than this. I want to say the Ultimate Hunter is pretty close in price, like $135, I think $125 maybe. So I think these are $125, this might be $135, but you know, you could make a strong argument in favor of the Ultimate Hunter. Let's pull in a couple more. Of course, a well-known outdoors knife, well-loved for a budget knife, is the Rat Model 1. This also gives you a good idea of size here. And you can see this is a knife that I feel like is right in my wheelhouse for size. And this is a fairly substantial amount smaller than that. Let's look at one more here. And that is the Manix 2 Lockback. This is the only Manix I have. It's my favorite Manix. And again, similar price point on this guy and a similar roll. This is going to be a pretty heavy duty knife like this, but we've got the G10, and I think these are like 140. So a little bit steeper, probably a little better ergonomics though. All right, so those are some comparisons for you, knives that I think if you're watching this and you're interested in this knife, you'd probably also be interested in. So overall, what is my take on this knife? Well, from a Benchmade perspective, I like this better than the Griptilian. I don't like it quite as much as the Freak. The Freak is probably my favorite recent Benchmade outside of the Crooked River, which I put in a different class because I like really large knives. Really nice knife, great EDC blade, pretty well made, reasonably priced. You know, if you like this, if this is, you know, if you're a Benchmade fan, or even if you're not a Benchmade fan, but you like nice knives, this is a good offering, guys. It really is. Yeah, there's a lot of competition out there. Now, I will say the one thing about most of the competition I showed you is they're not quite as fidget fun as this guy is, but otherwise there's a number of great knives out there, and this certainly belongs among them. Okay, this can hold its own. But I guess each of you will have to decide out of all the knives that are available in this price range and for this intended use, which one is best for you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon.